How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Nerf Fights, or I like to call it This is what happens when I got beat up as a child. But anyway, we are here with some fantastic competitors. We got some judges. I'm Mr. Carefree Richard Schwartz. I am the host and judge of this evening, but I'm not alone. I got two other fantastic judges. We got the comic book lad Grant, and we have the villain Haven. Let's go up to today.
Yeah, happy to be here. This is very exciting. I can't wait to judge these two. I mean, I'm a pretty judgy person by nature, so just being able to go, yep, I judge you, will make me feel really good and gives me my ego boost for the day. So I'm happy.
All right. Our second judge is in. It is Haven. Haven, how are you doing? How are you looking forward? Looking forward to this match?
Oh, hell, excuse me. Oh, hell yeah. We got both guys coming into Nerf Fights. They both want to win. You know, these guys are battle ready, and I can't wait to see what they bring to the table.
Oh, great. That's good to hear. But enough about us old timers. We got some two competitors here. We got Ruben. We got Alan. We'll start off with Ruben. Ruben, how are you doing tonight? Are you feeling ready for this match?
Yeah, I'm pumped. I love 75% of the questions, spoiler, that are going to be coming at us. There's one I'm not a huge fan of, but I like it. Yeah, I'm excited. This is actually my first official Nerd Fights match. I was not able to be my first one, so I had to forfeit. So I'm 0-1 now, so I'm looking to get that win. And on top of that, I am a future commissioner of this league, so I have a lot to live up to right now. So I got to start off with a good rep, so ready to do it.
Okay. And our next competitor is Alan. Alan, how are you doing tonight? Are you ready for this match?
I'm doing great. Yeah, looking forward to it. I always have a good time. The number one thing for these matches for me is having fun. So I'm just here to have some fun and see what so we can sling at each other.
All right. So, for those of you who have not seen the show before, we got 4 questions. Each of these questions have 3 rounds. We have the opening round where each competitor will have 90 seconds to open what they're fighting for. The second round is a 5-minute all-out brawl. Well, for 5 minutes, they will argue why their choice is the best, why theirs is wrong. You know, then the third round is the closing, where they have 60 seconds to close out their argument. So if everyone is ready, let's jump up to the first question. And the first question is in the realm of Harry Potter. What magical item was the most helpful in the movie franchise? So let's start off with Ruben. Ruben, you have 90 seconds for your opening statement, and it will start when you start talking.
Okay, so we're looking for the most useful object, and obviously in the Harry Potter lore. And by that, I'm looking for not what the most powerful item was, but what is the most useful. And the main goal of Harry Potter throughout the franchise, the first 7 books, the first 8 movies, the whole goal is to stop Voldemort. So the object that comes to mind is something that is used to destroy many of Harry Potter's villains, destroy many of the things that Voldemort needs to survive, and that is the Sword of Gryffindor. I selected this item because, like I said, this item's used to defeat the Basilisk and Chamber of Secrets, and then in turn, they are able to get the Basilisk Fang, and that Fang is able to destroy 2 different Horcruxes in the Harry Potter lore, including Tom Riddle's diary, and as well as I believe it was the locket as well. So that's 2 Horcruxes that was destroyed by the Basilisk Fang. Not to mention the sword itself destroyed Nagini. It destroyed or Nagini, sorry, destroyed the ring. Even though it wasn't showed on camera, it was Dumbledore said that he destroyed the ring with it. And it also destroyed, I believe there was one other one off the top of my head. I'm drawing a blank right now, but destroyed a total of 3 different Horcruxes. So that's 5 out of the 7 main Horcruxes destroyed by the sword. So that, to me, very useful, huge help, very, very helpful, very useful in terms of helping the heroes defeat Voldemort, which is the true goal of the series.
All right. So I guess that's the rest of your time. Grant, and just guess to 5 seconds. Can you do a countdown and then say time?
I think you did, right?
Okay. Oh, I didn't hear it. That just might be my crappy connection. But okay, Alan.
I think I saw it.
Alan. Okay. Alan, you got your you have 90 seconds for your opening statement. So it starts whenever you start talking.
All right. When I think about useful items in the magical items in the Harry Potter realm, I'm number one thinking the most useful, meaning used the most, and in the most key moments, and that is the cloak of invisibility. It is one of the most powerful magical objects. It is a deathly hollow, and Harry got it very early on and used it tremendously throughout the series. And almost all of the movies, he used the item and the cloak in some way to save his own life, to save the lives of others, to get very vital information from other characters. There's no other item that he used more than the cloak, and used to better effect than the cloak. So I'm going to use the rest of my time in the debate round.
All right, so you can cede the rest of your time just to verify?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we got the Sword of Gryffindor versus the Cloak of Invisibility. This should be a fun match. And now we're going on round two. The competitors will have 5 minutes to battle it out. So it will start when one of you guys start talking.
Okay, so I'm going to get started real quick. Let me go backtrack to what I was saying earlier. Actually, I lied. 6 out of 7 of the Horcruxes were actually destroyed by either the Basilisk Bane, which they got from killing the Basilisk in Chamber of Secrets, or by the sword itself. So that's all 6 out of 7. The only one that wasn't was Voldemort himself inside Harry Potter. Now let's go and jump over to something that you're saying. You're saying how the Cloak of Invisibility was used to save people. I don't remember it actually being used to save people at all, intentionally actually saving someone. And as far as story progression, most of the information he got, he received that information later at some point during the story. If you actually pay very close attention to the films and the books, the Cloak of Invisibility never actually helps him get information that he doesn't find out on his own later on. And a lot of times the information he picks up with the Invisibility Cloak actually hinders his storyline going on. It causes him to do something stupid. I'll go give you time to talk. I have some more to say, but you go.
Well, he uses it to get information by infiltrating various places, the library, the Room of Requirements, the Ministry of Magic itself. He uses the cloak to infiltrate and get information from information that's vital to the mission at hand. He uses the cloak in almost every single one of the missions that are important to retrieving the Horcruxes and to evade a lot of people looking out to get him, to kill him with the cloak. The Sword of Gryffindor, yes, it took out Horcruxes, but it was a kind of a sword ex machina. It was brought in magically for some reason without really anything to do with Harry. He just all of a sudden it appeared to him. In the Deathly Hallows, Ron brings it seemingly out of nowhere. And Ron leaves for a while because he's mad. Harry doesn't do anything to earn it. It's just magically given to him. It's kind of the Deus Ex Machina of the series, especially for Harry.
Okay, so a couple things to touch on real quick. First of all, you still haven't really talked about how does it actually help him to save people, because he never actually saves anybody with the cloak. Second of all, the sword itself, you speak about how the sword just, that Harry Potter doesn't actually earn or anything like that, or that Harry Potter doesn't always use it. The thing is, we're not talking about what's most useful to Harry. We're looking at what's the most useful overall. And Harry uses it, Neville uses it, Ron, like everybody uses the Sword of Gryffindor. Even Dumbledore uses the Sword of Gryffindor to destroy the ring Horcrux. So this object is actually useful to everybody, not just Harry, and that's what the question's asking, is what its most useful object. As far as there was 3 things you said that the cloak used to infiltrate it to get information. The library, Nicholas Flamel, that information was completely useless. They found out from Hagrid about more information about that later anyway, so that was completely useless. The Ministry, there was no one at the Ministry. They didn't have to really sneak in. Remember, Harry Potter wasn't the only one that snuck in. A whole bunch of other people did, and there's no way they would have been able to do that by himself in that cloak. So they wouldn't be able to cover everybody with that cloak. So that was pointless. I don't remember the third one, but that's my point, is that the cloak never actually helps him gain information or useful objectives that he doesn't obtain on his own, or he doesn't figure out to do without it, regardless later on in the book or movie.
Well, the cloak covers the The cloak covers the 3 kids in the Chamber of Secrets, so more than one person that it takes care of. It saves his own life when he witnesses.
There's 6 that goes to the Ministry. There's no way the cloak covers 6.
No, but it covers when he goes to the Ministry to get into Umbridge's office. It's used there to great effect, and the cloak saves his own life when he witnesses Dumbledore's murder. If he would have made himself known, he would have been killed, most likely. So he saves his own life in that crucial key moment, and obtaining when they sneak the dragon off of the grounds. It saves theoretically the dragon's life, and they're able to follow Hagrid into the forest to get the information from the spider. That's the information they couldn't have gotten unless they followed him. In the second movie, it's an extremely useful item, and it's not really. He has to use it himself. It's not given to him through means other than his own. It's not just magically, hey, here it is. He has to use it. He obtains this item and he uses it. He has to use his thought, his powers of deduction, and to when I can use this item in the most useful manner, and he does every single time.
You said time?
Oh, I said 5 seconds. 5 seconds.
Oh.
And now we're out.
Never mind. All right. Well, that's fine.
All right. Well, that was a bar murder fight. Now, each competitor will have 60 seconds for their closing. So, Ruben, we're going to start with you again. You have 60 seconds for your closing, and it will start when you start talking.
Okay, so just to re-elaborate some of the things I already said, the Sword of Gryffindor, regardless if it appears to him or he was giving to it and he has to use it on his own, that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is the question is asking what's the most useful object, and the Sword of Gryffindor destroys 6 Horcruxes, or slowly creating a way to destroy 6 Horcruxes. It destroys the main antagonist in a way, the Basilisk in the second film. The sword is used multiple times to actually help them achieve their goals, whereas the cloak doesn't really help them gain that much information that they don't already have or that they don't obtain later on. That's a fact. Not to mention, he mentioned that the cloak is a Deathly Hallow. Well, that's actually a bad thing. If you actually read the books, the Deathly Hallows are actually cursed. They're a bad thing, and each one actually leads to more problems or more issues, hence them being called the Deathly Hallows. As far as the Sword of Gryffindor itself, like I said, it's not just useful to Harry, but it's useful to Neville. It's useful to all the heroes to help them achieve the ultimate goal, which, regardless of what people say, the ultimate goal and throughout all the Harry Potter books, all of them, the things that they all have in common is defeating Voldemort, and the sword does a really good job helping them achieve that.
All right, Alan, you have 60 seconds for your closing, and it starts whenever you start talking.
The Deathly Hallows were only deathly or a negative thing depending on the person's intent using it. So the cloak was given to Harry by Dumbledore from his father. So with the intention of using it wisely and knowing when to use it and how to use it, which he demonstrated multiple times throughout the films. And the information that was given to him later, he never would have had an inkling of that information had he not used the cloak to go and get it. The most useful item is an item that you own, that you know how to use, you discover how to use, and you use it for the genuine purpose, which is to survive all of these trials and tribulations to ultimately achieve the ultimate objective. The sword was kind of a deus ex machina given to him at key moments when he never really used it himself. Other characters used it more than him. The cloak saved his life when he witnessed the murder of Dumbledore. It hid him, and during the final battle of Hogwarts, it hid him from Voldemort himself. So it saved his life multiple times, and he acquired a bunch of information.
End of round 3, end of the question 1. So we're going to go to the judges to see whether they decide who gets the point. I'm going to start off with Grant. Grant, who gets your point?
Okay, so the person who gets my point in this one is the Kingslayer. I felt like he gave more information about it. There was a nice counter there where Alan said about it wasn't good for getting information, and then you said, well, he didn't really get a lot of information back. So you did counter his counters. I just didn't hear enough against the sword. So.
All right. So 1 point for 1 point for Alan. I mean, not Ruben. Ugh. Ruben so far. Haven, who gets your point?
You see where Richard's leaning toward.
Okay. They both brung it. My point is going to go to Allen. They were both. They both had competitive first rounds, but in the second round, Allen was able just to dominate that round and use up a lot more time in the last 45 seconds. He just took the conversation over. They both hit on key elements, key movies. They even bring in the book sometimes, but Allen was just a little more. He just kept taking more time off the clock, bringing his presentation. So I go with Allen.
All right, so we got one for Ruben, one for Alan, and it comes down to me, and my point is going to Ruben. For the fact that Ruben, he gave more of the reasons why his item was a magical item. It destroyed the majority of the Horcruxes. He got the number wrong, though, but that doesn't really, because he did destroy the majority of the Horcruxes. Alan did bring up, it was ability. The main goal of the last two was to kill Voldemort, and he brought up the fact that it did kill the Horcruxes, which eventually killed Voldemort. So my point is also going to Ruben, and Ruben gets the first point. And we're going to question 2. And question 2 is in Star Wars, and it is, what is the worst Star Wars book? So last time we started with Ruben, we're going to start off with Alan this time. Alan, you have 9 seconds for your opening, and it starts when you start talking.
The worst Star Wars book to me, and I took this one kind of a personal. I'm a huge Star Wars fan and a fan of a lot of the books. Unfortunately, all of the books that I truly love are not considered canon anymore. They are EU or Legends books now. But my favorite character, absolutely, during that time frame was Grand Admiral Thrawn. An amazing character, which they put to good use in Rebels in the TV show, but this is about the books. And I was very, very excited about Timothy Zahn's first Thrawn book inside this new era of this new canon. And I was heavily disappointed because it was an origin story for Thrawn. And I think what worked best with Thrawn is the mysteries of his origin and just seeing his calculations, what made him a great and a really amazing villain, and an amazing admiral and a statistician, and using the a culture's art to find out how they think and how they strategize. And none of that was really evident in the origin story. It was really, really boring, a lot of talking, and not in a sense of planning or thought. And some of the most boring parts of that book are from the point of view of Thrawn, which you would think would be the more thrilling. But it became about another character. It didn't really become about Thrawn. And they tried to do a cheap, really cheap, hey, look at this character ending to that, which I think lessened the power of the character they should have been focusing on, which was Thrawn himself. And I'll concede my time.
All right. So we've heard Alan's thoughts, and just to verify, the name of the book was called Thrawn?
Thrawn, yeah.
Thrawn.
Just
okay,
Thrawn.
that was named.
Yep.
Just double checking. All right, Ruben, you have 90 seconds for your opening, and it starts when you start talking.
Okay, so I'm going to focus on my book. I'm just going to say that I'm heartbroken by Alan's choice. I'll get to that later, though. But anyways, so focusing on the book I chose. So I was looking for something that kind of dives away from Star Wars, something that isn't my Star Wars, something that actually doesn't feel Star Wars at all in any way, shape, or form. And the way I look at it, there's 4 things that people look for whenever they go see a Star Wars movie or read a Star Wars book. Lightsabers, obviously. The political side, the whole Empire versus Rebels, or the Resistance versus, I'm drawing a blank right now, but whatever they're called in the new one. And then another thing is something someone they like more story about the Empire itself. They like, and then obviously the signature characters, which are like Darth Vader, Sidious, like the characters that everybody grows to love. Those are the 4 things that people really look for when they look into these movies or books, and that's kind of what I'm trying to look for that doesn't have any of these. And the first thing that comes to mind is obviously the Crystal Star. Now, what this book actually does, first of all, lightsabers. To talk about lightsabers, I'm going to show you all the action that you get of lightsabers. Ready? Luke Skywalker, who, by the way, this takes place after Return of the Jedi. It takes place after that film. Okay, this is Luke Skywalker, his entire book. Ready? I'm in bed. I turn on my lightsaber. I turn it off. Couple pages, couple chapters later, here's the other one. Ready? I turn on my lightsaber. I turn it off. That's all the action you get throughout the entire book about lightsabers. And I got so much more to say, obviously, but I just want to throw that out there. It's horrible.
All right, just double check, Ruben. What was the name of the book?
The Crystal
I heard
Star.
the something star. The what star?
The Crystal Star.
Crystal. Okay. All right, guys. It is the Crystal Star versus Thrawn. So you guys will have 5 minutes to battle it out, and it starts when one person starts talking.
All right. I went first last time, Alan, so it's all you.
Well, I'm thinking when you're the expectations, I think both of us are kind of hitting on the expectations that the book had for us. While the Crystal Star, yeah, if you're looking for lightsabers and maybe a history of, and especially an adventure with Luke, yeah, it's kind of disappointing. But there's a whole lot of things that happen in Crystal Star, that kind of the kidnapping of Leia's kids. Again, this is all EU stuff for that particular book. But there's a lot of action that kind of happens within Crystal Star. Within Thrawn, there's very little action that happens with why we want to know how Thrawn is a great character and how he became this amazing statistician that he was, and how he focused on the culture of an enemy, a proposed enemy. I wanted to see that come to play. And really what you got was a Maleficent style revamping a really evil, hardened character into an anti-hero, or could be a good guy. Which, when I think of Thrawn, I don't want to think about that. I want to know this is an evil guy who, when he shows up, it means something. It's very, very important. Our heroes have an actual battle to face, and that wasn't evident in the Thrawn book.
All right, so I'm going to disagree with you completely, because Thrawn is actually one of my favorite Star Wars books, and you're breaking my heart right now. But focusing on Thrawn itself. So basically, like I said earlier, political and empire are kind of like two other big key factors that people like to see whenever they look at these books and movies. And that you actually see Thrawn start out as someone who has nothing, someone who comes to the empire, or who needs something to be a part of and stuff. And he actually grows through the ranks. He becomes a strategist. You see him become this amazing strategic mastermind, like about every solution, looks into everything, and he slowly grows throughout. He rises through the ranks of this stuff. Rebels obviously does a little bit of that, but I feel like the book actually defines the moment a little bit more. Not to mention, I believe, drawing blank on his name, his little friend Eli, I believe his name is. They actually build a strong. You actually see that relationship building strongly throughout the entire book. Whereas when you look at the Crystal Star, whenever you look at that book, okay, so a couple things. First of all, the main antagonist, guess what? Listen to this, guys. It's an orange glob. That's the main antagonist that eats Force. That is your main antagonist in that book. An orange blob that they have to jump into, pull Anakin Solo out of, and that's how they defeat it. Boom. That is your main story plot right there, guys. As far as the Solo kids, how exciting it is that they are kidnapped. That's something new and different. You probably know this, Alan, but how many times do the Solo kids, any variation of them, get kidnapped in the EU or Legends books? It's a running joke, actually. They get kidnapped all the time. It's hilarious to see. And as far as Luke Skywalker, on the cover of the book, he's like this amazing Jedi god, whatever, on the cover. He doesn't do anything in the book. As a matter of fact, he's like, I don't feel as good, or I trust this orange glob. He's like the god of Force or something. And he just has a willingness to trust something unknown to him, which is not like Luke at all. There's a reason why people hated The Last Jedi. A lot of people hated it. This makes it even far worse in terms of disconnecting people with Luke Skywalker and the orange glob. And I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, what I think is interesting about with Crystal Star is that you had something taken from Luke and Leia, which they relied upon, which is the Force. And the orange glob, yeah, it's an orange glob, but the menace behind the orange glob was that it took the Force away from them. So you had to see them, what would they do to solve this really desperate problem without the one thing that they kind of hinder on, without the Force. It's kind of like the Iron Man 3. What is Iron Man without his armor? Well, what is Luke and Leia without the Force? And how to try to figure out what they can do to solve their problems and find the children, which I think is intriguing. Is intriguing in a way. My problem with Thrawn is there was no intrigue. You say that there was showing how he became a statistician, and it really didn't. It showed him, there's a problem. this is what my solution is, not how he came to that solution, which is why Thrawn was a great character. All of the origin, everything you needed to know about Thrawn was told in the EU books, the 5 original Thrawn, the 3 Heir to the Empire, that trilogy, and then the 2 Thrawn books, which you learn more about Thrawn and how great of a statistician he was without him even really being in the books, which were pretty incredible. And given Timothy Zahn should have known this character very, very well, it wasn't evident in this, because it became about that relationship. It wasn't about Thrawn and his effect on Eli. It was, Eli, and Eli saying how great that Thrawn is. Well, okay, I know he's great. That's why I'm reading this book. But show me why he's great.
Time. All right, guys. 5 minutes are up. This was a heated battle, and now it's time for the closing arguments. Alan, you have 60 seconds for your closing, and it starts when you start talking.
Again, Thrawn is such an amazing character that a lot of people were clamoring for to be brought into this new canon and this new world, so much so that they tried it with Rebels. And this book should have been that, okay, you want Thrawn, here he is in all his glory. And his glory was diminished. It wasn't really fully thought out. It's a problem that Star Wars has with a lot of origins. I am a big fan of Star Wars. I am no fan of the prequels. Tell me the story of Anakin and how he became Darth Vader in a real compelling, interesting way. And yes, I want to be there. I want that story. And this was kind of the prequelization of Thrawn to me, including with an ending. Oh, you know, you didn't like this? Here's an ending. Oh, he meets Darth Vader. He worked with Vader. Ooh. Seems like whenever time Star Wars has a problem, they throw Vader into the mix. And the only time that's ever worked is really with Rogue One. With this Thrawn book, I just didn't get what I wanted. This great, amazing threat. And the threat was taken away. So I'll concede.
Time.
All right, Ruben, you have 60 seconds for your closing. Starts when you start speaking.
Okay, so first of all, let's focus on Thrawn a little bit more. So Thrawn himself, throughout this book, you actually get to see the more detailed relationship side of him, where you get to see him connect with Eli, where you get to see him actually build up that relationship. Not to mention, you also have, and you brought up the whole Darth Vader, like how you thrown it. I believe it's just a cameo. I don't think he's really in it all that much. And same thing for Sidious. He's not really in it that much at all. They just throw cameos in it to kind of draw interest into the book. They do that with almost everything. Whereas flip side, if you go look at something like the Crystal Star, once again, like everything that was good in that book was done before. Everything that wasn't done before was horrible. It was god awful. And like I said, the main antagonist was Orange Blob. Luke Skywalker had no idea what he was doing. You mentioned how he had to solve a problem without the Force. He didn't solve anything. As a matter of fact, Han Solo kind of actually solved it. He actually just kind of sat on his, I don't know if I can say this, but ass, and did nothing. The point of the fact of the matter is that, never mind.
All right. It's the end of round 3. We're going to the judges. Haven, you're going to be up first. Who is getting your point?
All right. Yeah, both of these guys bring 2 good books. The way they talked about them, you know, you had Thrawn versus the Crystal Star. But my point is going to go again to Alan for this one. He just brought the book more visually to me. You know, the Kingslayer, you know, he made some good points, but when he says the title was I don't know, whatever, you know, it kind of diminishes from the argument. So I'm gonna give it to Alan.
All right, so 1 point goes to Alan so far. I'm going to go to me, and my point is also going to Alan. I just felt I heard more arguments why Thrawn was the worst book where it ended, mainly on how good Thrawn is, not really how bad his book was. Like, the only thing I really heard they stuck out was that, you know, the Orange Blob was terrible, and we all know, based on the MCU, villains can be bad and also have a good story. So, but this is a close game so far. It is tied 1-1, and it's a really nail biter. Both competitors doing great. So we're going on to question 3, and it was the category of DC. What DC villain deserves their own rated R spinoff? So we're going to start off with Ruben this time. Ruben, you have 90 seconds for your opening statement, and it starts when you start talking.
All right, so obviously DC has a huge variety of villains out there that they can choose from, but unfortunately, Warner Brothers owns DC and the films right now, and because of that, there's a limited things that they can actually do just because they have to win us back, and the best way to win us back is using recognizable characters that can also make really good films in amazing ways that we've never seen before. We've seen it with the Joker; it did phenomenal. I won't go into any spoilers about that, but it did phenomenal because it was a character that everybody knows while still showing a backstory that we never seen before of the character. And the next big thing I can think of is Lex Luthor. Now, when you think of Lex Luthor, I go back to Action Comics. I want to say it's like issue 23. I could be way off on that. But when you go to Lex Luthor's origins with Superman, he went by Superboy at the time. There's this whole storyline built about how Superman and Lex Luthor actually became best friends. They were really close. They were really like, they had each other's back. They was always helping each other out. But then like Superman made one mistake about causing Lex Luthor to get a whole bunch of chemicals on him, also causing him to become bald, and boom, like that created a huge rivalry between two of the biggest characters and one of the biggest rivalries ever. Now, obviously, whenever you see Lex Luthor film, you want to see his childhood growing up. I want to see him actually, why does he become this crazy, obsessive, psychotic genius? And the best way to see that is an origin story with Lex Luthor. And I'll leave it at that. And I'll go.
All right. So, Alan, you have 90 seconds for your opening, and it starts when you start talking.
The question is who would make the best R-rated film, and I think something that they haven't quite done, and Joker got close, and is made a true horror film, an actual scary horror film. The DC EU or the DC films, really whatever you want to call them. I'm not going to count Constantine in that because it really wasn't a typical horror film. We're talking an actual slasher horror film. And Murmur, the Flash villain, to me would make, if you're going to make an R-rated film, let's go. Let's make an actual R-rated film with a psychotic murderer that is that really origin of him. I don't even know if I want to know because it's too terrifying. But I want to see what he does, and I want to see it in an R-rated film. If you're going to tell the story in an R-rated way, let's see it. Let's see his psychosis. Let's see his evil. Let's get truly creeped out and terrified by a villain in the R-rated format. If it's a PG-13, then maybe we go with another villain. But I think Murmur, a straight up psychotic freak that uses knives as his primary weapon, and really wants to lash people and make them hurt and kill them. Let's see it in an R-rated format, and let's see a slasher film. Let's go.
All right, so we have Lex Luthor versus Murmur, and now it's time for round 2. 5 minutes to battle it out, and it's going to start the timer when one of you guys starts fighting it out.
Okay, so 2 big issues for you with Murmur. One, he's not as recognizable as a lot of characters, and unfortunately, Warner Brothers being the way they are, they cannot focus on lesser known characters right now. They have to draw people in first and make a film about a character that we all know and a different way of seeing them. Second of all, you mentioned that you just want to go rated R, which is fine. Like that's the whole argument is making rated R. But you mentioned that the best thing that draws into him is the fact that he has knives. But my thing is if you're going to go with like a dark character just for them being dark, then why not go with Deathstroke? Like why do you go with Murmur? What makes him stand out opposed to Deathstroke? Whereas with Luthor, you have a compelling backstory you can build. You can show his obsession. In the comics, there's some gruesome comics about him actually digging down deep, conducting experiments to kind of like counter Superman, looking for weaknesses for Superman. There's different issues where he's actually doing some horrible things to people, discussing horrible things because of his obsession. And with the Joker, you saw one form of like an illness, how it can change someone and how people become the way they are. Well, this is the perfect story to tell with Lex Luthor about how obsession and greed can actually drive someone to do some horrible, disgusting things. And we can see a dark, sinister side of Lex Luthor, even darker than what we've seen. We've never seen an origin story from Lex. You've always seen him at the top of his game in the films. The closest you got is maybe with the show in Smallville, but the CW show RIP. But focusing on the films, you never actually seen a good origin story focusing on Lex Luthor and about how he becomes this crazy obsessive.
All right, Ruben, I'm going to stop you real quick. Let Alan talk.
No, let him go. We haven't seen Lex's origin in film, really. You're right. In animated, yes. In comics, yes. We've seen these things. And if you're a true fan of the DC, then you kind of know Lex Luthor's how he got to be who he is and his obsession. And again, you could tell that story in a PG-13 or even a PG movie. Luthor he's a businessman. He can't really do the things that are truly psychotic and scary in an R-rated fashion because he has to have this public face. And you can tell, you can show off camera his true brutality. If he's doing something really, really nasty, you can show it off camera and still get that PG-13 and be okay. But with Murmur, one of the DC things is they've having these proven commodities, and they've made crappy movies and not made a lot of money, and it's been kind of bad for them. So, and a lot of what they're saying is the originality. They lack originality. So if they're going to go for originality, go with a lesser known villain. And if you need to have something to bring in to get people to come see it, you've got the Flash. The Flash, there he goes. How can Murmur best this godlike character who can move at the speed of lightning, because no one knows what he's doing. His presence, is so visceral that I want to see that. And in a film form, I want to see that presence, that terrifying presence. When I see this villain, I want to be scared shitless. I want to see, the only origin I want to see is maybe hearing his voices in his head and he blurts out what he's going to do to somebody and then he cuts out his own tongue. I want to see it. If this is R-rated, let's see it. Let's see what makes this guy truly evil, truly terrifying, truly something I wouldn't want to mess with, even if I had the power of a god. And let's see. One of the best moments in Joker was one of the most brutal moments. And so I want to see that in this Murmur, in this character that's truly defining evil, truly threatening to not only the hero, but to everybody in the city, in Central City. I want to see how scary he can be.
Okay. So once again, I think you're confusing rated R with horror. It doesn't have to be a horror film. It can be rated R without being a horror film. You can see discussing horrible things with a bigger character that can draw more people towards. Again, Murmur is a lesser known character, and yeah, originality is important, but originality could go with the fact that Lex Luthor has never had an origin story on film before. That's originality right there. You can actually build off of his hatred. You can build off of something that everybody knows. Everyone knows jealousy. Everyone knows the feeling of never being able to be something who someone else next to them is gifted with everything. And you can actually build off of that in a rated R film. You can see how it could drive someone so mad to do so god-awful things in a rated R film. And you're talking about experiments. You're talking about murdering to get what he needs, destroying whole cities and stuff. Like this could be a really gruesome film with a character that everybody knows and grew up with, and they can see magnificent things out of. Okay.
Time.
Whew, this was a tough one. Now we're going to the closing statements. Ruben, you have 60 seconds for your closing, and it starts when you start talking.
Okay, so I think there's two big things that we need to look for. Okay, one, it has to be something, Warner Brothers has to make something that's actually going to draw people to go see it. And on top of that, it has to fit a character that has to have a compelling story where they can actually make a film about it. Murmur, there's not really too much information on him. Yeah, they can build off of that, it's originality. But once again, his character, there's nothing that would actually draw people in that they haven't seen before. You talk about it being a slasher film. We have plenty of slasher films. There's a whole horror genre. What we don't have is backstories on the villains of the story. Like, we want to see like a backstory on a villain that everybody knows and loves, a character that everyone grew up with, a character that we can actually see more in depth and see their point of view and actually relate to. Lex Luthor is the hardest person to relate to in the DC. And if we actually sit there and watch an origin story based on him and see how his jealousy was created and his whole obsession with Superman was created, it could be an amazing story and actually turn into a really good rated R story just because we can see his devastation for every little thing he does.
All right. So, Alan, you have 60 seconds for your closing, and it starts when you guys start talking.
I think when you're looking at Lex Luthor in an origin story, it's got to be lightning in a bottle, because I don't want to see a 2-hour movie of this guy whining because he's not Superman, because he's jealous because he doesn't have Superman's powers. I don't want to see that. I want to see something that's more original and more terrifying. If going with the R rating, if that's the theme of the question is what would make a more R-rated, compelling villain, then I want to see something that I haven't seen before from the DC, and I want to see a horror film, and I want to see something truly scary, a villain that's actually terrifying, and his presence brings dread. With Jason in the Friday the 13th series, Jason was terrifying when you couldn't understand his motivations. You didn't want to know what's going on. He's just an unstoppable force that's coming at you. And apparently he's very, very smart, because you can't get away from him. With Murmur, you've got that threat. You've got that dread. You've got the whole police force. You've got the Flash, who should easily take out this villain. But the fact that he can't find him and can't understand him freaks him out. And so he makes a scary, scary presence, and I want to see that.
Whew. Wow. This our visitors brought it. Now it's time for the judges to decide. It's going to start with me, and my point is going to Ruben. Both competitors did great with their constructions, but I heard more from Ruben of why Lex Luthor, his backstory is more compelling. It would be compelling to see his backstory. More characters, the audience know Lex Luthor more than Murmur. That could be a problem when it comes to box office sales. And I heard more reasons why this DC villain deserves a rated R movie. So my point goes to Ruben. Let's start off with Grant. Grant, who is your point going to?
Okay, my point is going to Alan. When it came down to the crux of the question, which should be the next R-rated, he gave reasons why the R rating would work for this one. There were some nice counters during the second one, but I was leaning initially to Kingslayer, but until that last round, he brought it home with saying the reason why it's R-rated is because you can get away with doing these things more. And also he mentioned about Luthor having that public face, which would make a nice dichotomy. But if you want to go with the R, go the full R. And I agreed with that, and that's what got me.
All right, so we have one vote for Ruben, one vote for Alan. Haven is the deciding factor. Haven, who is getting your point?
My point is going to go to the Kingslayer, just because the fact of, if you were just listening to this conversation, just walking into this conversation, you hear the name Lex Luthor, you hear the backstory, you start visualizing it. Alan never told us anything about Murmur except that could be scary and maybe he has a knife. It just lost me. Like none of that is like, he just kept saying, "Oh, if they're making a rated R movie, this guy could do this," and it's like, I don't know what this guy's powers are. I don't know what this guy's doing. He says, "Oh, Flash, is Flash gonna be in the movie?" If he could have brung up a topic, or both of these guys. At the end of the day, sorry to talk too much, but yeah, Kingslayer is getting mine on this one.
All right. With that being said, Ruben gets the point. It is now 2-1. Going to question 4. The category is anime, and the question is best anime wife. And Alan, we're going to start with you. You have 90 seconds for your opening, and it starts when you start talking.
All right, this is the one that might shut down the nerd fights because I feel weird about both our choices here. But we're thinking wife material. You want somebody you can depend on, you can trust, you can love, you can have fun with, and is always going to take care of you no matter what, be with you by your side till death to you part. And that is Misty from the Pokemon series. She is loyal. She is amazing. She's an awesome caretaker. She's funny. She has a great attitude, a positive outlook on life, and she's never going to let you down. And she's going to be with you till the end, and I could see the rest of my time.
All right. We're going to Ruben, the Kingslayer. You have 90 seconds for your opening, and it starts when you start talking.
I shouldn't waste time on this, but I love this question. So real quick, hands down, I'm looking for someone that we've actually seen in a way married in the anime. So we actually got to see her actually what she would be like as a wife, and we saw an amazing, amazing, perfect wife. Like she had leadership skills. She actually led a faction inside the Sword Art Online. She cooks, she cleans, she works, she does everything, and she's loving and loyal and respectful. Like she's insane. She's so. I want her so bad. I want her so bad. Like I wish she would make the perfect wife. So, anyways, so I just think those qualities right off the bat are like make her extraordinary. But you actually get to see her personality, which is the thing that actually probably should matter the most. That's the thing that you can't really love someone unless it's a personality that you can actually fall for. And her personality, her charming, lovable personality, where she actually gets to experience like when she experiences stuff with Kirito, like throughout their journey, she actually builds up that relationship and she jokes around, she has fun. She doesn't beat the husband, which you see a lot in anime. Where you actually see the girls beating up the guys all the time. I'll get into that later. But she's actually someone that is actually very, very likable. And yeah, I'll stop right there.
All right. With that, it is Misty versus Asuna. So we're going to go with 5 minutes to battle it out. And you guys, it starts when one of you guys starts talking.
After you.
When you're thinking about wife, you want to think about the perfect partner, the perfect someone who's going to be with you, who's going to be the ultimate caretaker. And you get to see that in action with Misty, with her loving caretaking abilities with the Pokemon, with Togepi in particular, and with Psyduck. These are two perfect representatives of children, and you get to see Misty lovingly educate these children, take care of these children, not let anything happen to these children, but still be fun, still be exciting, still be adventurous, but safe at the same time. You get to see every positive, good aspect about her character. And when I'm thinking of somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with, I don't want to, hopefully it's not going to happen to the stereotypical, eventually she's going to nag me and take over and I'm going to have to do everything just for her. There's going to be a partnership involved. And with Misty, you've seen her partnership, her loyalty, her care throughout the Pokemon series. She's shown nothing but positive energy and love, affection, and caring. And that's with a wife, that's what you want.
All right. So there are two good things about Misty. She is loyal, I'll give you that, and she has a good partnership with the heroes. But you're forgetting all the bad stuff. Let's not forget her voice. She screams all the time. She's constantly yelling at Ash, which is supposed to be like at the first couple of seasons. She's constantly yelling at Ash about how he treats his Pokemon. And you want to know how I compare Misty to? I compare Misty to a crazy cat lady because she's so obsessed with Pokemon. She doesn't really care about humans as much. She is constantly caring about the love and care for Pokemon, not the love and care for a husband. That is not someone you want as a wife. Let's go back to Asuna. She is someone who, once again, like me, I want a wife that I can actually picture her being a wife and how she would be. You actually get to see her scene for scene for scene. Like I think it's 2 different episodes. You get 2 full episodes as her as a wife in the series, and you see what she's like, how she's willing to do everything. Like she's willing to do crazy stuff things that actually make her stand out from most animation. Like I said, she's leading an entire faction to try to save everybody. She is still coming home, cooking, cleaning. She is doing like all the chores, and Kirito is the one lazy son of a. Let's leave it at that. Meanwhile, she's doing all this stuff, and she doesn't care because she cares so much about him. She just wants him to be happy. I love a wife that actually just the only thing they care about is just making me happy. That is not Misty. Misty is someone who cares about making Pokemon happy.
You need somebody to challenge you, to be there with you, to go on adventures with you, not to say, hey, I'm going to be gone for a while to go lead the resistance or lead this rebellion or whatever she's doing. And the fact that she's going to make up excuses for a lazy husband. You want somebody who's going to be there. If you just want a slave, you can get that. Just somebody to make you happy, sit around and do that. You want somebody to challenge you. Misty shows that she could be a great leader too with all of the water type Pokemon. And she doesn't yell at Ash. She has a high squeaky voice, yes, but after a while you can get over that. She's really cute. She's sexy. She got the little midriff thing showing all the time. So she's always ready for any kind of thing you want to do. We won't go into too many wife things. That's behind closed doors, but I guarantee she's down for that. But she's trying to always help the Pokemon, and always say, hey, Ash, you need to do this. Let's do this together. I'm not going to yell at you. She doesn't yell at him and tell him to do things. She says, hey, let's do this. I'm going to show you how to do this, and then we're going to do it together. Let's go. And she's not going to be the wife to say, if you go to her and say, hey, let's go do this, honey, she's not going to be, oh, that's okay. I got better things to do. You go ahead and go take a nap. No, she's going to be down. Oh, you want to do that adventure? Let's go.
Okay, so let's talk about adventure. Actually, you're wrong. Guess what? Kirito's actually part of the faction too, and he actually helps her lead it. So they actually do go on journey together. They actually lead the faction together as a team, and they actually do that stuff throughout. Like once he actually joins her faction, she convinces him to join her faction, and they actually do the journey themselves. He's the one that actually gets them through the game. Like he is the one that wins the game for them and gets them through the game. So it actually is a joint journey. Second of all, she never yells. I think there's only one scene where she yelled at him, and that's because of jealousy. Which, by the way, Misty got like that like plenty more times over Ash with other girls, especially over Brock. She actually got jealous over Brock even, which I don't even know why. So like whereas like you look at Missy, the animation of when she yells at Ash, sometimes, especially those older first generation animation, there are little lines signifying like her yelling, like that. That's supposed to mean that she's yelling at him. That is not her saying or her squeaky voice. That's her yelling at him. And like I said, you keep bringing up the care and someone that is challenging him. Asuna actually challenges Kirito because it actually pushes him to fight against him in the faction to see who can be the better leader and who can actually be the game and stuff. And
Time.
Wow. This actually might be my favorite question of the night. So we're going to the closing arguments. Alan, you have 60 seconds for your closing, and it starts when you start talking.
When you marry somebody, an animated character, hopefully they're going to be into the real life and you're not going to be animated into theirs. So there's not going to be any lines yelling, representing a crazy woman screaming at me. There's going to be a loving, caring, challenging, up for anything, always ready for any kind of adventure or anything that's going to be, and she's going to be a partner, a true partner. When you want a wife, you want somebody who's going to be partnering with you, not somebody that has to convince you of a lot of things, not somebody you have to convince to go do a lot of things. I don't want the 20-minute argument. Okay, are we going to go fight these guys or these guys today? What are we going to do? I got to convince you all this time to do it? No. Say, hey, Misty, we got to go do this and take care of these Pokemon, take care of these kids. Are you ready? Let's go. Yes, of course I'm ready. And she's going to be down to do it. She's going to challenge you by saying, I got adventures we can go on together. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. She's never going to sit at home, not milquetoast, not mopey. You don't have to convince her of anything. She's going to be there, loving, caring, and with you all the time.
All right. Ruben, you got 60 seconds for your closing. Starts when you start talking.
Okay, so you keep bringing up how Misty and Ash are, and she's just going to jump and do whatever he wants to do. I'm sorry, how many times, like what show are you watching? Because Ash and Misty constantly, nonstop keep arguing. They nonstop argue. It's crazy how much they argue. And yeah, it could be considered like flirtatious argument, but they're still constantly bickering and arguing. She does not do anything he tells her to do. She barely actually listens to him. Asuna, you keep saying that Asuna has to actually try to convince you, nags him. It's not like that at all. Like you actually watch the series, you see that she is actually in a relationship with him where she's actually willing to do whatever he wants to do too. And you brought up the whole closed doors things. Asuna and Kirito actually slept together, by the way, just so you know. They actually slept together. So don't get the whole little closed doors. You don't know with Misty, you know with Asuna. All right. And then bringing up another fact about how you mentioned about the animation world. They actually get married outside the animation world too. They actually meet in real life, and they're actually almost exactly like they are in the animation world. And they actually date outside of it too. So, boom.
Time.
All right. Now this was a fun question. I think it's my favorite. I'm a little bummed no one picked Bulma or Chi-Chi, but it is what it is. We're going to the judges.
Yelling.
Grant, what is your decision? Who gets your point, Grant?
Okay, so this comes down to a why. I didn't think it was going to be this close. The point is going to the Kingslayer. He just had enough. He talked about that he's already been wife material. Maybe it's me, but thinking of Misty during her wifely duties is something that I never thought I would actually think about. So thank you for that. Mentioning that they got married inside and outside the world, I like that. I just wish you brought up one thing, Kingslayer, when he was talking about Psyduck being a good mum. You could have said she beats him. She beats him all the time. But that's neither here
Oh,
nor
I
there.
missed that part. I missed that part.
All right, so we have one vote for Ruben. Haven, who is getting your point?
Um, yeah, this topic could have been a lot more funner if both of these guys would have actually talked about wifing this person, because the question was who would be the best wife, and both of these guys didn't really bring enough argument to talk about. I don't know. It just, to me, without watching these shows, I thought these guys would have painted a better picture of why this person was, instead of just like, oh yeah, she's cool, yeah, yeah. But it's like, if you want a wife, you want somebody. At the end of the day, the Kingslayer was the one that brung it the hardest in this last one for me.
All right, and with that, Ruben actually takes the game. He got to 3 points. It was a very fun. It was such a fun match between them both. I'm going to start off with the winner today. Ruben, how are you feeling? Did you enjoy competing?
Yeah, this was stressful as hell. I honestly thought that all my answers were better, and I fought like it turned out to be a lot bigger fight than I thought it was. I will take the Lex Luthor one. I thought I would have lost, especially like going into it, I was going to lose. I instantly regretted my choice. I'm like, wait, that was actually a stupid choice. And then in the debate, I thought Alan, I thought you did better than me in the Lex Luthor one. So I will give you heads up. That one I thought you would have. That one I thought was better. But overall, the match was fun. The questions were amazing, minus the DC one. But I loved all of them. So yeah, it was a great match. I'm glad to finally have a win. And this might be my first nerd related debate win. So glad to finally have that. Glad to have fun. Alan, you were a lot of fun to argue and bicker with and yell at and stuff. So that was cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, now to second place today was Alan. Alan, you came up a little bit short today. You still put up a good match. How are you feeling? And what are your thoughts about maybe when your next match is going to be, you think?
Oh, feeling great. Again, these are always fun. Win or lose, these are fun. And Ruben, you brought it, man. You had some great arguments, and you had me sweating a couple times when I got the points. And I was, oh man, he's bringing it. And it came down to the wire. We were almost to that speed round, so it was cool. I love how passionate you get about each one of the things, and I like how you listen to my arguments, to your opponent's arguments, so you can counter them. So you're really good at that. So you deserve the win, brother. It was fun.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Ooh. I mean, it was a great match. Let's go to Grant real quick. Grant, how'd you feel about the match?
Yeah, I felt really happy about the match. I do agree that I think the Lex Luthor one, that was a tricky sort of question. I really enjoy anything DC related, as my name says, comic book lad. So Alan did really well. But we do have someone waiting in the wings for the winner.
Uh-oh.
So I'm just gonna get them on real quick.
Who's it gonna be? Oh
hey,
yeah,
guys, what's
there
up?
he is. There he is.
So if you don't realize, I think you know who your next opponent's going to be.
I guess it's this guy. I don't know.
Kurt, what were your thoughts on the match?
You don't know, Kurt.
Yeah, I only got I was backstage for the last match, and Ruben seems to know what he's talking about, at least when it comes to anime. So, I mean, he seemed to have some good debate tactics. It was nice to get a little insight on, his style. It's a little awkward because it's actually the first time that I'm meeting Ruben. I don't think we've ever formally met. Hi, Ruben. I'm Kirk. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
No offense. I was rooting for the spaceman just because he's living in Hawaii right now, and it's about 20 degrees outside where I'm at. So I just want to beat him and just bring some disappointment to his life, just to even things out a little bit. But no, Ruben seems like a good opponent, and I'm looking forward to the next match.
All right. Well, before we end it, Haven, what were your thoughts on this match?
I thought these guys were both able to handle each question, and they had a good back and forth. I wish they would have talked more about. Well, I don't know. They both were doing what they had to do for the questions, but the fourth question to me, when I look back on it, it's like these guys could have just did so much more with that question, and But yeah, it was a great match. These guys both brung it, had great answers, and I was glad to be here.
My
There you have it,
girlfriend
Mr.
watches this.
Positivity over there. Mr.
My girlfriend-
Positivity over there. No, my thoughts in the match. It was great. It was fun. I mean, I think you can tell these two had a blast with these questions. So with that being said, this concludes another episode of Nerd Fights. You guys have a wonderful night, and bye.